The mess hall at Galactic Military Academy buzzed with the usual dinner noise. Hundreds of cadets from dozens of species filled the massive room, their voices mixing into a constant hum. Sat with 3 other human cadets at a corner table, eating her meal in quiet concentration. She had been at the academy for 3 months now, 3 months of proving herself every single day, 3 months of seeing the looks other species gave her kind. Those looks that said humans were weak, that said Earth was a backwater planet, that said her people barely deserved to be here. Did not let it bother her. She came here to learn, to train, to become the best she could be. The opinions of arrogant aliens meant nothing compared to that goal. "Did you see your scores from combat training?" her friend Lisa asked, leaning across the table. "You ranked 3rd in the entire first-year class." Shrugged and took another bite of her protein bar. The academy food never quite satisfied her appetite, but she had learned to supplement with Earth rations. "The instructors are good. They push us hard." "Push you hard?" Another human cadet, Jack, laughed. "You make the rest of us look lazy. Even the instructor said he has never seen a first year with your endurance." Before could respond, a shadow fell across their table. She looked up to see 3 large figures standing over them. The one in front was Al, from a species that looked like walking lizards with broad shoulders and sharp teeth. His scales were dark green, and his eyes were cold. Behind him stood a who resembled a massive praying mantis with 4 arms and compound eyes. The third was Ash, a whose 4 arms were thick with muscle. He stood nearly 8 feet tall. All 3 were 3rd-year cadets. All 3 wore expressions of contempt. "So this is the human that thinks she can compete with real warriors," Al said. His voice carried across the nearby tables. Other cadets turned to watch. Set down her fork slowly. She met his gaze without flinching. "I do not think anything. I simply train and improve." "Your scores are an insult," hissed, his mandibles clicking. "You are from a primitive world. Your species barely achieved space travel, yet you rank above cadets from civilized worlds." "The scores do not lie," said calmly. "If they bother you, perhaps you should train harder." The mess hall had gone quiet now. Everyone was watching, could feel the tension building, but she remained seated. She took a sip of water and waited. Ash stepped forward, his 4 hands clenched into fists. "You dare insult us? We have been warriors since before your planet learned to make fire." "I insulted no one," replied. "I stated a fact. The scoring system is fair to all species. If my results anger you, that is your problem, not mine." Al's eyes narrowed. He leaned down, bringing his face close to us. She could smell his breath, sharp and acidic. "I challenge you, human, 3 days from now. A combat simulation, 3 against 1. Us against you." The crowd gasped. A 3-on-1 match was technically allowed as a training exercise, but it was meant to be unfair. It was meant to teach cadets about overwhelming odds. No one actually expected the lone cadet to win. Looked at each of the 3 aliens in turn. She saw their confidence, their certainty. They believed this would be easy. They believed they would crush her and put humans back in their place. "I accept," she said quietly. The gasps grew louder. Lisa grabbed his arm. "No, they are 3rd years. They have been training for years, and there are 3 of them." Gently pulled her arm free. "I accept," she repeated louder this time, her voice carried across the silent hall. Al straightened up, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "Excellent. We will see how long Earth's supposed warrior lasts. 3 days, the main simulation arena, 900 hours. "I will be there," said. The 3 aliens turned and walked away, laughing among themselves. The moment they were gone, the mess hall erupted in conversation. Cadets began placing bets immediately. The odds heavily favored the 3 challengers. "Why did you accept?" Jack asked. "They are going to destroy you. This is not about honor. This is about them wanting to humiliate humans." Picked up her fork again and resumed eating. "Perhaps, or perhaps it is about something else." "What could it possibly be about?" Lisa demanded. "You are good, really good, but 3-on-1 against 3rd years from warrior species. This is suicide." Finished her meal before answering. When she spoke, her voice was calm and measured. "They think humans are weak. They think Earth is primitive. They believe we do not belong here." "So you're going to prove them wrong by getting beaten in front of the entire academy?" Jack asked. "I am going to teach them a lesson," said. She stood up and collected her tray. "Now if you will excuse me, I have training to do." As she walked toward the exit, she passed several groups of alien cadets. They pointed at her, laughed, made comments about how brave or foolish she was, ignored all of it. She had heard worse. Near the door, she encountered Commander Greg Hayes, one of the human instructors. He fell into step beside her as she dumped her tray. "Cadet," he said quietly, "I heard about the challenge." "Yes, sir." "You know they are trying to make an example of you." "Yes, sir." "You also know the Academy will allow this match. They see it as a learning opportunity." Nodded. "I understand, sir." Commander Hayes studied her face. "Do you have a plan?" "Yes, sir." "Care to share it?" Smiled slightly. "I am going to show them what it produces, sir. That is all." The commander was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled too. "I tried to warn them, you know, yesterday. I told Al that challenging a human to physical combat was unwise." "What did he say, sir?" "He laughed, said I was bluffing to protect my species, said humans were fragile compared to—" Commander Hayes shook his head. "I suppose some lessons can only be learned the hard way." "Yes, sir," agreed. "Some lessons must be experienced." She left the mess hall and headed toward the training facilities. Behind her, the betting continued. The odds grew worse and worse for her chances. By the time she reached the gym, she was listed at 50-1 against. Did not care about the odds. She had not cared about odds since she was 5 years old, running from a pack of wild dogs through the hills near her home. She had not cared about odds when she climbed cliffs that would kill most humans if they fell. She had not cared about odds when she trained in gravity that made every movement a struggle. She changed into her training clothes and began her evening routine. Around her, other cadets worked on various exercises. Several stopped to stare at her. The human who had accepted a suicide challenge. Ignored them all. She had 3 days, 3 days to prepare, 3 days to make sure everything was perfect. Woke at 500 hours, same as every morning. Her small room in the cadet barracks was dark and quiet. She dressed quickly in her running gear and headed out into the station's corridors. The Galactic Military Academy sat on Zenith Prime, a massive space station that orbited a peaceful world. The gravity here was set to standard, which most species found comfortable, for it felt light, almost too easy. She made her way to the running track, a circular path that wound through one section of the station. At this hour, she usually had it to herself, but today a small group of cadets had gathered near the entrance. They watched her approach with curious expressions. Nodded to them politely and began her run. She set a steady pace, her breathing even and controlled. After the first lap, she noticed the watchers had grown in number. Word was spreading. Everyone wanted to see the human who had accepted an impossible challenge. As she ran, mind drifted back to Earth, to home. She had grown up in the mountains of Colorado, in a region where the air was thin and the terrain was brutal. Her father had been a search and rescue worker. Her mother was a wilderness guide. They taught her to run before most children could walk properly. The mountains were dangerous. Bears, mountain lions, wolves, cliffs that crumbled without warning. Whether that could kill in minutes, learned to read the signs, to move fast, to never stop until she reached safety. When she was 7, she got separated from her parents during a hike. She spent 2 days alone in the wilderness before finding her way back to their camp. She had walked 30 miles through terrain that would challenge trained adults. Her parents found her tired but unhurt, sitting calmly by a stream and eating berries. That was when they knew she was different, stronger, more resilient than most. By the time she was 12, was running marathons, not for competition, just because she could, because her body demanded the movement, the challenge. Earth's gravity pulled at her constantly. Every step was work. Every movement required muscle. Her bones grew dense to handle the stress. Her heart grew strong to pump blood through a body fighting constant resistance. She never thought of it as hard. It was simply life. Finished her 10th lap and slowed to a cool-down walk. The crowd of watchers had tripled. She paid them no attention. Meanwhile, across the station, Al and his 2 companions were also preparing. They had reserved a private training room and were reviewing tactical data. Had pulled up everything the Academy database had on humans. The information was limited but concerning. "It says here that Earth has 1.2 times standard gravity," read aloud, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "That is higher than any civilized world." "Barely higher," Al scoffed. My has 1.15 standard gravity. It means nothing. There are notes about their endurance, continued. Humans can run for extended periods. Their bodies cool through liquid secretion from their skin. They can pursue prey for hours until it collapses from exhaustion. Ash laughed, his 4 arms crossed over his massive chest. Pursuit predators, how primitive, are ambush hunters. We strike once and the battle is over. That is the way of true warriors. Still, said slowly, perhaps we should review the medical data more carefully. Al slammed his hand on the table. Enough. The human is a first-year cadet. We are third years. We have trained in combat for years. She has trained for months. The outcome is certain. But the instructors began. The instructors are protecting their species, Al interrupted. Commander Hayes tried to warn us off because he knows his human will be humiliated. It is psychology, nothing more. Ash nodded agreement. We will crush her quickly, make it clear that humans do not belong among warriors. Then things will return to proper order. Looked at the data one more time. There were warnings in the medical files, notes about bone density, muscle fiber composition, pain tolerance levels that seemed impossibly high. But his companions were confident, they were experienced. Surely they knew what they were doing. He closed the files and joined them in reviewing combat tactics. Back in the human section of the barracks, friends had gathered in her room. They sat on her bunk and the floor, their faces worried. I have been looking at their records, Lisa said, scrolling through her. Al won the second-year combat tournament last year, is ranked expert in 3 different martial systems. Ash has never lost a strength competition. I know, said. She was doing stretches, her body folding in ways that made the others wince. Please, Jack said. You can withdraw, say you were provoked. The instructors will understand. Stopped mid-stretch and looked at him. And what message does that send? That humans back down when challenged? That we cannot handle pressure? It sends the message that you are smart enough not to fight unwinnable battles, Lisa argued. Every battle is unwinnable until someone wins it, replied. She resumed her stretches. Besides, who said this battle is unwinnable? 3 against 1, all of them bigger, all of them more experienced. Basic math says you lose. Smiled, math works differently on Earth. What does that even mean? Jack asked, frustrated. Stood up and walked to her window. Outside, she could see the stars. Somewhere out there, hidden among billions of systems, was a small blue world, her world. When I was 14, she said quietly, I went hiking with my class. We were in the Grand Canyon, a place with cliffs and heat and very little water. One of my classmates fell and broke his leg. He was 2 miles from help, down a trail too narrow for rescue vehicles. Her friends listened in silence. I carried him, continued. On my back, 2 miles up a steep trail, in heat that reached 110 degrees. It took me 3 hours. When we reached the top, the rescue workers said I should not have been able to do it, that the weight and distance and heat should have made it impossible. She turned back to face them. But I did it anyway, because on Earth we do not think about what should be impossible, we simply do what must be done. Lisa shook her head. Carrying an injured friend is not the same as fighting 3 trained warriors. No, agreed. It is harder. That friend depended on me completely. In this fight, I only need to depend on myself. The next day attended her regular classes. She noticed the stares, the whispers, the betting pools that had spread throughout the academy. The odds against her had climbed to 70 to 1. In combat theory class, the instructor used historical battles to teach tactics. He described a fight where a small force held a narrow pass against overwhelming numbers. The smaller force won through superior position and endurance. Numbers matter, the instructor said, with silver fur and sharp eyes. But they are not everything. Environment matters, endurance matters, understanding your own capabilities matters most of all. He looked directly at when he said it. After class, she stayed behind. The instructor waited until the room emptied. Cadet, he said, I assume you know why I chose today's lesson. Yes, sir. The academy is buzzing with talk of your match. Many believe you made a foolish choice. Yes, sir. What do you believe? Consider the question. I believe that Al and his friends do not understand what they have challenged, sir. The instructor's ears twitched, a sign of amusement in his species. And what have they challenged? A human, sir. A someone whose normal is their impossible. Confident words. Honest words, sir. The instructor nodded slowly. I have reviewed your training scores, your physical assessments. I have also reviewed the 3 cadets who challenged you. He paused. I have made certain the medical team will be ready. They will need to be. For me, sir. No, cadet, not for you. That evening did her regular workout in the main gym. She did not change her routine, did not add extra exercises. She simply did what she always did. But now dozens of cadets watched. They watched her lift weights that made their own training look easy. They watched her run on the treadmill for an hour without slowing. They watched her hit the punching bag with force that made it swing wildly on its chain. In a corner of the gym, Al watched too. He had come to scout his opponent, to see what she could do. What he saw made him laugh. She trains like a brute, all strength and endurance. No, the day before the match arrived with unusual tension in the academy, cadets talked of nothing else. The betting pools had reached ridiculous amounts. Odds had settled at 100 to 1 against. She woke at her usual time and went through her usual routine. Morning run, breakfast, classes, nothing changed. Nothing felt different to her. But everything felt different to everyone else. At 1400 hours, entered the public training area for her afternoon session. She had reserved one of the general use spaces, a large room with various equipment. It was first come, first served, and she had arrived early. Within minutes, the observation gallery began to fill. Cadets poured in, wanting to see the humans' final training session before the match. By 14:15 hours, the gallery was packed, standing room only. Ignored them all. She began her warm-up stretches, her movements precise and controlled. In the crowd, whispers spread. Some thought she looked calm, too calm. Others thought she looked small compared to her opponents. Fragile. At 14:30 hours, the doors opened again. Al and Ash entered. The crowd went silent. The 3 aliens wore full training gear, their equipment marking them as serious warriors. They walked to the center of the room and stopped, watching Stretch. She glanced at them once, then returned to her routine. Al's eyes narrowed. You seem relaxed, human. Do you not fear tomorrow? Finished her stretch and stood up straight. Why would I fear tomorrow? Because you will be humiliated in front of the entire academy, Ash rumbled, his forearms crossed. Perhaps, said, or perhaps not, we will see. Stepped forward, his compound eyes studying her. You are either very brave or very foolish. I have not determined which. Does it matter? Asked. It matters to your medical recovery time, Al said with a cruel smile. But since you are here and we are here, perhaps we should train together, give the crowd a preview. Tilted her head slightly. You want to train with me? Why not, unless you are afraid to show us your techniques before the match? Looked at the 3 of them for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, but it held something the aliens did not recognize. It held knowledge, certainty. Very well, she said. I am about to begin my pre-combat routine. You are welcome to join me. It is only fair to warn you, though, I train at Earth Standard. Earth Standard means nothing to me, Al scoffed. I have trained in conditions you cannot imagine. All right then, said. She walked to a control panel and adjusted the room's gravity settings. Computer, set gravity to Earth normal, 1.2 standard. The change was subtle but immediate. Every cadet in the observation gallery felt the difference. They shifted their weight, adjusting to the increased pull. Some of the smaller species sat down, uncomfortable. Al felt it too, but he showed no reaction. His was similar. He could handle this easily. Now, said, we begin with basic cardiovascular warm-up. Follow my lead. She dropped into position and began doing. Down to plank, chest to floor, push-up, jump, repeat. It looked simple. Al and Ash exchanged glances. This was child's play. They began the exercise, copying her movements. Maintained a steady rhythm. Down, up, her breathing remained even, controlled. After 1 minute, Al was breathing harder. The gravity pulled at him more than he expected. His muscles worked to push his body up from the floor each time. After 2 minutes, his forearms were shaking slightly. His body was not built for this kind of repeated stress. After 3 minutes, even Ash's massive frame was struggling. Sweat beaded on his skin. His forearms felt heavy. Continued 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. Her pace never changed. Her breathing never became labored. At 8 minutes, Al's arms gave out. He collapsed to the floor, his chest heaving. His vision swam. The gravity pressed down on him like a physical weight. Al gasped, still trying to continue the exercise. They did not respond. His eyes had rolled back. His breathing was rapid and shallow. "Medical," someone shouted from the gallery. "We need medical." 2 Academy medics rushed into the room. They checked Al quickly and loaded him onto a stretcher that compensated for the increased gravity. Stopped her exercise and walked to the gravity controls. She returned the room to standard. Immediately, everyone felt lighter, easier. Dropped to his knees, gasping. His entire body trembled. "What kind of warm-up is that?" he managed to say. "A basic one," replied. "On Earth, this is what children do in school." "Impossible," Ash growled, but his voice was weak. He was still standing, but barely. "No species trains children that hard." "Earth does," said simply, "because Earth requires it." The head medic, a named Dr. Lynn Barnes, was scanning Al with her instruments. Her ears went flat against her head, a sign of concern. "His respiratory system went into shock," she announced. "The sustained exercise and increased gravity overwhelmed his cardiovascular capacity. He will recover, but he needs immediate treatment." She looked up at, "What were you doing?" Said, "A basic warm-up exercise. I do 500 every morning." 500, Dr. Barnes stared at her. "That would kill most species." "Most species did not evolve on Earth," replied. The medics carried Al out. The crowd in the gallery was completely silent now. What they had just witnessed changed everything they thought they knew. Slowly got to his feet. His legs were unsteady. "You did that on purpose. You knew what would happen." "I warned him," said. "I told him I train at Earth standard. He chose to continue anyway." "This is not over," Ash said. His pride was wounded. His confidence was shaken but not broken. "Tomorrow's match is in standard gravity. Al will recover by then. We will still face you 3 against 1. Nodded, "That is your choice. But I will offer you the same warning I gave before. You do not understand what you are challenging." "We understand perfectly," Ash insisted. "You are strong for your size, tough for a first year. But tomorrow in actual combat, strength alone will not save you." "You are right," agreed. "Strength alone is not enough. That is why I do not rely on strength alone." Before anyone could ask what she meant, an alarm sounded in the training room. A piece of equipment had malfunctioned. A heavy rack of weights, easily 300 pounds, was falling from its mounting on the wall. It was falling directly toward a young cadet, a student who had frozen in panic. "Moved." She crossed the room in 3 long strides. Her hand shot out and caught the rack one-handed, stopping its fall. The metal bent slightly under her grip but held. She lowered it carefully to the ground, then helped the shaking cadet to their feet. "Are you hurt?" she asked gently. The young could only shake their head, too shocked to speak. "Check the mounting bolts. These were installed incorrectly. I will file a maintenance report." She said it casually, like catching 300 pounds one-handed was normal. Like stopping a fall that would have crushed another being was just another part of her day. And Ash stared. The entire gallery stared. Dr. Barnes pulled out her medical scanner again and pointed it at. She studied the readout carefully. Her ears twitched in disbelief. "Your bone density," she said slowly, "is 3 times higher than standard. Your muscle fiber composition is unlike anything in our database, and your pain tolerance threshold is so high that my scanner thinks it is malfunctioning." "Is that unusual?" asked. "Unusual?" Dr. Barnes laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Cadet, according to these readings, your body is built to withstand forces that would shatter most species. You are not just strong. You are structurally different, fundamentally different." She looked at Ash and, "I strongly recommend you withdraw from tomorrow's match. This is not a fair fight. It was never a fair fight." "We do not withdraw," Ash said stubbornly, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Said nothing. He was looking at with his compound eyes, seeing her clearly for the first time. Not as a primitive human, not as a weak first year, but as something his species' instincts recognized. A predator, an apex predator from a world that forged such beings in fire and pressure and endless danger. "Tomorrow then," said quietly, "we will see this through." Nodded, "Tomorrow." The 3 aliens left. The crowd dispersed slowly, talking in hushed voices. The betting pools were in chaos. Many cadets were trying to change their bets, but the bookies had frozen the odds. Finished her training session alone. She ran, she lifted, she stretched, everything normal. Dr. Barnes watched from the doorway. Commander Hayes joined her. "You tried to warn them," the doctor said. "I did," Hayes confirmed. "They did not listen." "Will she hurt them badly?" Hayes shook his head. "Has more control than they realize. She will teach them a lesson, but she will not cause permanent harm. That is not her way." "What is her way?" Hayes smiled. "You will see tomorrow. The entire academy will see. And after tomorrow, humans will never be underestimated here again." In the medical bay, Al woke up on a treatment bed. His body ached. His pride ached more. And Ash sat beside him. "What happened?" Al asked. "You collapsed during a warm-up exercise," said. "A basic human warm-up exercise." Al sat up too quickly and immediately regretted it. His head spun. "That is impossible. I'm a third-year combat specialist." "And she is a human from Earth," Ash said quietly. "Dr. Barnes showed us her medical scans. Al, we may have made a terrible mistake." "We cannot withdraw now," Al said. "The entire academy is watching. If we back down, we will be the morning of the match arrived cold and clear. Or at least as clear as morning could be on a space station." The lights in the corridors brightened to simulate dawn, and cadets began moving toward the main combat arena. Woke at her usual time, she ate her usual breakfast. She dressed in simple training clothes, nothing special, just a plain gray shirt and black pants. No armor, no protective gear. Her friends met her outside the barracks. "Last chance to back out," Lisa said, though her voice carried no real hope. "The match starts in 1 hour," replied. "I should head to the arena." Jack walked beside her as they moved through the crowded corridors. Every cadet they passed stopped to stare. Some called out encouragement. Others made jokes about how quickly the match would end. 100 to 1 odds, Jack muttered. "I put money on you anyway. I will probably lose it all, but I had to show support." Smiled at him. "Thank you, that means more than you know." The combat arena was massive. It could hold 3,000 spectators in tiered seating that surrounded a central platform. The platform itself was 50 meters across, equipped with holographic projectors for various combat scenarios. When arrived, the arena was already 3/4 full. Cadets from every species had come to watch. This was the event of the year, the arrogant human against 3 proven warriors. In the center of the platform, 3 figures waited. Al had recovered from yesterday's incident, though he looked tired, stood perfectly still, his compound eyes tracking everything. Ash cracked his knuckles on all 4 hands, a nervous habit. All 3 wore full combat gear, protective padding, reinforced gloves, professional equipment. Walked onto the platform wearing her simple training clothes. The crowd murmured. Some laughed. Was this human really so confident that she wore no protection, or was she simply ignorant of how badly she was about to be hurt? A referee, a tall with silver fur, stood at the edge of the platform. "Cadets," she announced, her voice amplified through the arena, "this is a registered training match, 3 against 1. Combat simulation level 5. Medical teams are standing by. The match is scheduled to begin at 900 hours. She checked her chronometer. "It is now 8:30 hours. Combatants may use the next 30 minutes for final preparations and warm-up exercises. The match will begin precisely at 900. Nodded and walked to one corner of the platform. She set down a small bag she had brought and pulled out a water bottle. The 3 aliens gathered in the opposite corner, conferring quietly. They had a strategy, would attack high, using his reach and speed. Al would go for the legs, taking away her mobility. Ash would wait for an opening and end it with his overwhelming strength. It was a solid plan. It should work. At 8:35 hours began her warm-up. She started with simple stretches, reaching for her toes, rolling her shoulders, loosening her muscles. From their corner, Al watched with disdain. "Look at her. She does not even prepare seriously. This will be even easier than I thought." But remembered yesterday, remembered how that simple exercise had put Al in the medical bay. "Perhaps we should focus on our own preparation," he suggested. At 8:40 hours, moved to the next phase of her warm-up. She called out across the platform, her voice friendly. "Would you like to join me? It is considered polite among humans to warm up together before a match. Builds respect." The 3 aliens looked at each other. It seemed like a trap, but refusing would look cowardly in front of 3,000 spectators. "What harm can it do?" Ash said. "It is just a warm-up. We show them we are not afraid." They walked to where stood in the center of the platform. "Thank you," said. "I appreciate the courtesy. We will start simple, just basic exercises to get the blood moving. I will keep it at standard gravity this time, so everyone should be comfortable." "How generous," Al said sarcastically. Smiled. "First exercise, basic, same as yesterday but without the increased gravity. Just 20 repetitions, ready." Before anyone could object, she dropped down and began. Down, up, down, up. The 3 aliens joined her, determined to show no weakness. After yesterday's embarrassment, Al was especially motivated to prove himself. But set a different pace today. Faster, more intense. Her body moved like a machine, each repetition perfect. Al matched her pace. His pride demanded it. His body complained, but he ignored it. 10 repetitions, 15, 20. They finished together. There was breathing hard but standing. He smiled viciously at, "Is that your best? Perhaps you are not as tough as you think." "That was the warm-up to the warm-up," said. She was not breathing hard at all. "Now we begin the actual routine, resistance band training, standard equipment." She pulled out 4 sets of resistance bands from her bag. She handed 3 to the aliens and kept 1 for herself. "These are calibrated to human standard," she explained. "Place the band behind your back and pull forward with both arms, like this." She demonstrated. The band stretched easily in her hands. She pulled it forward, her arms extending fully, then released and repeated, 20 times. "Simple," Ash declared. He took his band and tried the exercise. The band barely moved. He pulled harder, his 4 arms straining. The resistance was enormous. "This is not standard," he protested. "This is heavy world equipment." "For humans, this is standard," explained patiently. "Remember, we evolved in higher gravity. Our muscle development requires proportionally higher resistance." Tried his band. His 4 arms could not extend it even halfway. The resistance was beyond his species' normal capacity. But Al, angry and desperate to prove himself, put all his strength into the exercise. He pulled with everything he had. The band extended. His muscles screamed in protest, but his pride screamed louder. He managed 5 repetitions. On the 6th, something in his shoulder made a sharp popping sound. Pain exploded through his arm. He dropped the band and clutched his shoulder, his face twisted in agony. "Medical," the referee called immediately. The medics rushed onto the platform. Dr. Barnes was with them. She scanned Al quickly and shook her head. "Severe muscle tear, possible ligament damage. He is out of the match." "No," Al gasped. "I can fight, I can still." "You can barely stand," Dr. Barnes said firmly. "You are done." They led him off the platform. 1 down. The crowd was in shock. The match had not even started yet. Set down her resistance band. "I am sorry," she said to an Ash. "I thought the exercise would be manageable. Would you like to continue, or should we wait for the official match time?" His mandibles clicked rapidly. He was thinking, calculating. Every instinct told him to withdraw. But 3,000 cadets were watching. The honor of multiple species was at stake. "We continue," he decided. "As you wish," said. "Final warm-up exercise, simple grip strength training. This will help prevent hand injuries during the match." She pulled out small grip trainers. They looked harmless. Simple spring-loaded devices that you squeezed repeatedly. Ash took one eagerly. This was a strength exercise. Strength was his domain. He would crush this device and show the human that were still superior. He squeezed. The device did not budge. He squeezed harder. Nothing. He put all 4 hands on it and squeezed with his entire massive frame. The spring inside was calibrated for human hand strength, for hands that evolved gripping in 1.2 times standard gravity, for muscles that compressed with force beyond what most species could imagine. Ash's pride would not let him quit. He squeezed harder, harder. The grip trainer began to compress just slightly. Then his hands began to crack. Not the device. His hands. The bones. The pressure required to compress that spring was beyond what his skeletal structure could handle. 2 of his 4 hands fractured simultaneously. He roared in pain and dropped the device. It clattered harmlessly to the platform floor. Dr. Barnes did not even need to scan him. She could see the damage. Both right hands are fractured. Possibly the left rear hand as well. He needs immediate treatment. No, Ash bellowed. I can fight with 2 hands, I can. You can go to the medical bay, Dr. Barnes said. Now. 2 down. Stood alone facing. 3,000 cadets watched in absolute silence. The impossible was happening. The 3 challengers were falling before the match even began. I understand now, said quietly. His voice was not amplified but heard him clearly. Your warm-up is your weapon. You do not need to fight us. You only need to let us try to match you. It is not a weapon, said gently. It is simply what I do every day, what every human does every day. We do not think of it as special. It is just life on Earth. Then Earth is well named, said. A world that kills anything not born to it. He looked at his own grip trainer still in his hand. He had not tried to use it. He was smarter than his companions. I could withdraw now, he said. Save myself the injury, but that would mean all 3 of us fell without landing a single blow. Our shame would be eternal. There is no shame in acknowledging reality, said. No shame in understanding that different species have different capabilities. Considered this, his compound eyes studied her carefully. If I try this device, I will be hurt. Probably, agreed. But if I do not try, I will never know if I could have succeeded. That is true. Clicked his mandibles once, a gesture of decision. Very well, let us see. He began to squeeze the grip trainer. Gently at first, testing. He could feel the immense resistance. The spring had barely begun to compress when pain shot through his hand joints. He stopped, set down the device carefully, stepped back. I withdraw, he said clearly. I acknowledge that this match was ill-conceived. I acknowledge that I underestimated Cadet and her species. I acknowledge defeat. Nodded respectfully. That took more courage than fighting. The referee looked stunned. She checked her chronometer. It is now 8:57 hours. All 3 challengers are unable to continue. The match is declared a forfeit. Victory to Cadet. The arena erupted, 3,000 voices shouting at once, some in triumph, some in disbelief, some simply in shock at what they had witnessed. Walk 2, she extended her hand in the human gesture of respect. Thank you for your honesty. That matters more than any victory. Reached out with one of his 4 hands and carefully took hers. Thank you for the lesson. I will not do hours after the match ended, walked into the medical bay. She carried a small bag and wore a concerned expression. The nurse at the front desk recognized her immediately. Cadet, the nurse said. They are in recovery room 3. Dr. Barnes said you might come. Nodded her thanks and walked down the corridor. She found the room easily. Inside, 3 beds held 3 very quiet aliens. Al lay on his back, his shoulder wrapped in regenerative bandages. Sat upright, his hands carefully positioned in healing casts. Ash took up 2 beds pushed together, all 4 of his hands in similar casts. They all looked up when entered. The room fell silent. I brought some things, said quietly. She set her bag on a nearby table. Fruit from the commissary, reading materials. I thought you might be bored. Al stared at her. You came to visit us after we challenged you, after we tried to humiliate you. You are hurt, said simply. That matters more than pride or challenges. She pulled up a chair and sat down. How are you feeling? Like I was crushed by a mountain, Ash rumbled. My hands will heal, but Dr. Barnes says it will take 2 weeks, 2 weeks before I can train again. I am sorry, said, and she meant it. I tried to warn you. I did not want this outcome. You tried to warn us, agreed. His mandibles clicked softly. We did not listen. We thought we knew better. We thought humans were primitive. Many species think that, said. It is understandable. We are new to the galactic community. We do not have ancient civilizations or advanced technology. On paper, we look weak. El tried to sit up, winced, and fell back. But you are not weak. You are the opposite. How can a species from one small world be so strong? Thought about how to explain. May I tell you about Earth? Please, said. I think we need to understand. Settled into her chair. Earth is what the galaxy calls but we who live there, we just call it home. Imagine a world where the gravity pulls at you every moment, where every step requires work, where children build strong bones and dense muscles just from learning to walk. She gestured with her hands as she spoke. Now imagine that this world is covered in dangers, predators that can tear you apart, whether that can freeze you or boil you, diseases that attack constantly. Earth does not forgive weakness. It never has. But surely you have cities, Ash said. Safe places, protection. We do now, agreed. But we evolved for millions of years before we built cities. Our bodies remember those millions of years. They remember running from predators, climbing to escape floods, enduring heat and cold, fighting for every scrap of survival. She looked at each of them. Your species evolved differently. Worlds are stable, comfortable. Your people never needed extreme strength because your world never demanded it. Worlds are organized, structured. Worlds are rich in resources. Your ancestors never had to fight the planet itself just to live another day. Al's eyes were wide. So every human is like you. More or less, said. Some are stronger, some are faster, but we all carry Earth inside us. We all have that foundation. That is terrifying, said quietly. You are a first-year cadet. You have barely begun military training, yet you defeated 3 third-years without even fighting. I did not defeat you, corrected gently. You defeated yourselves by trying to match what millions of years of evolution built into me. That is not a fight. That is just biology. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Ash laughed. It was a painful laugh, making him wince, but genuine. We were so arrogant. We thought your high scores were luck. We thought we would crush you easily and put humans in their place. What place is that? Asked. Below us, Al admitted. We thought humans belonged at the bottom, the species, the weakest species. We were wrong. You were not entirely wrong, said. Humans are the species in the academy. We do have less experience, less technology. We are still learning our place in the galaxy. But you are not weak, said. That much is clear now. Smiled sadly. Strength comes in many forms. Yes, I am physically strong, but you 3 showed a different kind of strength today. Al, you pushed yourself even when your body was failing. That is courage. You had the wisdom to stop before serious injury. That is intelligence. Ash, you are recovering with humor instead of bitterness. That is resilience. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the space station spun slowly, stars visible beyond. I did not come to the academy to prove humans are superior. I came to learn, to grow, to serve alongside other species in protecting the galaxy. Then why did you accept our challenge? Al asked. You knew what would happen. You could have refused. Turned back to them. Because you needed to learn something. The academy is full of cadets who believe that older species are automatically better, that newer species should be dismissed. That prejudice hurts everyone. So you used us to make a point, Ash said. It was not an accusation, just an observation. I used the situation to teach a lesson, agreed. Not just to you 3, but to the entire academy. Now everyone knows that humans are not weak, but more importantly, they know that assumptions can be dangerous, that every species brings something valuable, that dismissing others based on prejudice is foolish. Dr. Barnes entered the room, her silver fur neat and her expression professional. Cadet, I thought I would find you here. How are they doing, Doctor? Asked. They will all make full recoveries. No permanent damage, though they will need time and rest. She looked at the 3 aliens. You are fortunate. If this had been an actual combat situation, the injuries could have been much worse. It was just a warm-up, Al said weakly. We fell to a warm-up routine. A human warm-up routine, Dr. Barnes corrected. I have been reviewing the medical data on Earth species all morning. Cadet is not exceptional for a human. She is average, perhaps even slightly below average in some metrics. The 3 aliens stared at her in horror. Below average, Ash whispered. There are humans stronger than her. Many, confirmed. I am a decent athlete, but I am not remarkable. There are humans who can run for days without stopping, who can lift weights that would seem impossible, who have survived injuries that would kill most species. I am just a regular person from Earth. Mandibles clicked rapidly. If you are average and you defeated us this easily, then what would an exceptional human do? Probably teach combat classes, said with a smile. Like Commander Hayes. The implications settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Every assumption they had made about humans was wrong. Every belief about Earth being primitive was shattered. I have a question, Al said after a long silence. Why did you not hurt us worse? You could have. During the match, you could have let us continue until we were seriously injured. Why stop? Sat back down. Because hurting you was never the goal. Teaching you was the goal. You learned what you needed to learn. Anything beyond that would have been cruelty, not education. You showed us mercy, said. I showed you respect. corrected. Mercy implies I had power over you. Respect means I recognize your worth as individuals and fellow cadets. Over the next several days, the story of the match spread throughout the academy. The betting pools were settled, and a few smart cadets who had bet on became very wealthy. But more importantly, the atmosphere changed. Human cadets were no longer dismissed in tactical discussions. Their opinions were sought out. Their physical capabilities were respected, even feared. Notice the change most in her classes. Alien cadets who had ignored her before now asked for her input. Instructors called on her more often. The prejudice had not disappeared completely, but it had cracked. 1 week after the match was training in the public gym when Al and Ash entered. Their injuries had healed enough for light exercise. They walked directly to where was running on a treadmill. She saw them and slowed to a stop. "Cadet," Al said formally, "we have a request." Stepped off the treadmill, waiting. "We would like you to train us," said. "Not to make us human, we understand that is impossible, but to help us understand how to train more effectively, how to push our limits safely." "We want to learn from you," Ash added, "if you are willing to teach us." Smiled a genuine warm smile. "I would be honored, but we do it properly. We start with understanding your species' capabilities. We build programs suited to your biology. We do not try to make you into humans. We make you into the best versions of yourselves." "That is all we ask," Al said. He extended his hand in the human gesture, took it and shook it firmly. From that day forward, morning training sessions included 3 unusual students. Word spread, and soon other cadets asked to join. Within a month was running mixed species fitness classes, teaching exercises modified for different biologies. The Academy administration noticed. Commander Hayes recommended for a teaching assistant position. She would help develop species-specific training programs while continuing her own studies. In the mess hall one evening, 3 months after the famous match, sat with a large group of mixed species friends. Al was there, fully recovered, had become one of her closest friends. Ash appointed himself her unofficial bodyguard, though she needed no protection. "I have been thinking," Al said, his voice thoughtful. "When I first challenged you, I wanted to prove that humans did not belong here, that you were inferior." "And now," asked. "Now I understand that the question was wrong. It is not about whether humans belong. It is about what each species brings to the collective strength of the galaxy. Humans bring endurance, resilience, a perspective shaped by surviving the impossible. And bring tactical thinking," added. "Bring precision and planning, bring strength and loyalty. Every species has value." "When did you become so wise?" asked, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "When I was 14, said with a grin, "carrying an injured friend 2 miles up a canyon wall in extreme heat. Survival teaches you what matters, and what matters is not who is strongest or fastest what matters is that we work together." Ash raised his glass, "To working together." "To understanding," Al added. "To respect," said. "To friendship," finished. They all drank together, a small group of cadets from different worlds, brought together by a challenge that ended before it began. They had learned more from that non-fight than from any actual battle. And in the years that followed, as they graduated and served together in the Galactic Defense Force, they would carry those lessons with them. They would teach other species about respect and understanding. They would bridge the gaps between old worlds and new. Because had not just defeated 3 cadets that day, she had not just won a match. She had built bridges. She had turned potential enemies into lifelong friends. She had shown the galaxy that humans, despite being newcomers, despite being from a harsh, had something valuable to offer. Not just strength, not just endurance, but compassion, understanding, the ability to teach without dominating, the wisdom to know when to push and when to show mercy. That was the real lesson of the girl, that true strength was not in crushing your opponents. It was in lifting them up, in helping them become better, in building a future where all species stood together, each contributing their unique gifts to the whole. And that future started with a simple warm-up that 3 arrogant cadets could not complete. It started with a lesson that became a friendship. It started with one human showing the galaxy what Earth truly produced. Not just survivors, but teachers, leaders, friends. The crowd continued to roar. Commander Hayes stood in the front row, smiling. Dr. Barnes shook her head in amazement. And in the medical bay, where Al and Ash were being treated, They heard the announcement over the speakers. They heard the crowd's reaction. The match was over, they had lost, and it had not even officially begun. "Emmed forever. If we go forward," said, "we may be hurt far worse than your pride." The three sat in silence, each wrestling with the same question. Tomorrow would come whether they were ready or not, and tomorrow they would learn what it truly meant to challenge a. For, no finesse, this will be easier than I thought. But standing beside him was not laughing. He was watching's face. She showed no strain, no exhaustion. After an hour of exercise that would tire most species, she looked like she had just started. Al said quietly, "Perhaps we should reconsider." "Reconsider what? Crushing a primitive human? Never. In 2 days, everyone will see where humans truly rank among the species of the galaxy." Said nothing more, but deep in his complex mind, doubt was growing. She smiled to herself as she began her warm-up. 3 days until those arrogant aliens learned what it meant to challenge someone from Earth. 3 days until they understood what a really produced.